So let's start with this exciting topic, how to divorce anxiety safely and successfully. And as I promised, we will start with breathing exercises, which usually help quite a bit if a person feels just slightly nervous or anxious, or even if a panic attack is forming. So the first exercise, which is absolutely essential for those type of mental states, is gentle belly breathing. To do that, I would like to ask you to put your palms, one on your chest and the other one on your belly, and try to breathe in a way then that your chest doesn't move at all or moves very little, but your belly expands with every inhale, and then with every exhale it gets pulled in. So we will do it for 1 minute. So please start breathing in a way that your chest doesn't move and your belly expands and then gets pulled in. And for some people, I'll just show you how to do it. You inhale and you exhale. You inhale and you exhale. You inhale and you exhale. And again, you inhale and you exhale. It should be a gentle, enjoyable process. It might be slightly challenging, but shouldn't be torturous or unbearable. So, gentle inhale, the belly sticks out a little bit, and exhale, the belly gets pulled in. Slow, enjoyable breathing. And now we are switching to a different exercise which allows to combine relaxation with reduced breathing. So stay with this belly diaphragmatic breathing, which you just created. However, during this second exercise, you don't need to move your belly very actively. So your belly is still moving, but now it's moving just a little bit when your chest and your shoulders don't move at all. So now imagine that you are sitting in a beautiful garden. Close your eyes, adjust your posture, making you as tall as possible. Your spine is completely straight, and activate your imagination. It's always helpful. So visualize that there are beautiful flowers around you, all kind. Imagine the flowers you know well and the flowers you never seen before, the flowers which probably don't even exist. Become a little child, play with your imagination. So look at all those flowers around you, enjoy their beauty, and now look up. Your eyes could be open or closed, doesn't matter, but roll your eyes up a little bit, gently, like you are looking at the beautiful blue sky and the sun shining brightly right above your head. And imagine a sunbeam gently touching your forehead, relaxing all muscles in this area. making you feel comfortable, making you feel good. The sunbeam creates perfect temperature. Feels really, really good. Imagine that the sunbeam is moving down through your face, touching your right ear, the tip of your nose, your left ear, your lips, and your chin, relaxing all your facial muscles. You are sitting in the garden, you have plenty of time, there is nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to prove, nothing to gain. It's fine just to be. You are slowly, gently inhaling this wonderful aromatic air, taking in only as much air as your body truly needs. Slow, relaxed breathing, enjoyable breathing. Look up again, look at the sun, and imagine another beam of light. Now it's touching your throat and your shoulders, taking all tension away from this area and replacing it with total comfort and relaxation. Try to create this feeling in this area of your body. Keep inhaling this fragrant air. It feels so good. This smell is wonderful, but it's strong, almost overwhelming. Try to take in only only what your body needs and not more. Try to determine the minimal volume of air which satisfies your air hunger, but you are not taking too much because the smell, even though it's pleasant, could be overwhelming. Slow, gentle, relaxed breathing, timeless breathing. It feels like the time doesn't exist. Everything is all right now. At this moment, everything is the way it's supposed to be. Look up again, look at the sky, look at the sun, and imagine the third sunbeam, which is touching your chest, relaxing all muscles around your lungs, relaxing the main breathing muscle, your diaphragm, making you feel good, making you feel totally satisfied on the emotional level. At this moment, your life is perfect. At this moment, your breathing is perfect. At this moment, your health is strong and reliable. Breathe like this is your reality. Strong, slow, enjoyable breathing. Peaceful breathing. Gentle breathing. Connect with your breath. Make it blissful. It's a tool which is always available for you. And when you are ready, please open your eyes and gently block one nostril. Make sure that you are not increasing the airflow through the second nostril, but you continue inhaling aromatic air slowly, carefully, taking in only as much as you need and not more. Now you're creating what we call a pleasant air shortage. So enjoy it instead of fighting reduced breathing. Try to relax into it. Try to make it enjoyable. Slow, peaceful, timeless breathing. And when you're ready, please switch to the other nostril. So close your other nostril and continue relaxing into this reduced breathing, into peaceful breathing, into blissful breathing, into enjoyable breathing. Remind yourself that everything is fine at this moment. Your breathing is good, your health is good. At this moment, your life is absolutely perfect, and there is nothing to worry about. Allow your breathing to indicate this true reality. Slow, enjoyable breathing. And now, when you are ready, we will use something else. Please put together your palms like this and create a mask made out of your hands like this. And imagine that now you're actually surrounded by bad smell. So you're trying to breathe as little as possible. You're using your hands to help you with this. If you cannot be comfortable keeping your palms completely together, then open them a little bit like this. Give yourself a little bit more air and then close it again completely. So try to relax into reduced breathing. Don't fight this obstruction of your breathing. You are totally in control of this process. If it's too difficult for you, simply open your hands, your palms, and give yourself more air. If it's fine, then continue breathing gently, breathing quietly through your palms, inhaling CO2-rich air and reducing your air consumption. Peaceful, timeless breathing, which indicates that at this moment your life is perfect. There is nothing to worry about. And put your hands down, please. Look up again. Look at the sun. And imagine all 3 sunbeams touching your body, touching your face, your neck and shoulders, and your torso, creating a lot of beautiful light around your body. Your body is light, your body is luminous, your body is absolutely gorgeous. Slow, peaceful breathing. Your belly is moving just a little bit. Your shoulders and your chest are completely still. Slow, enjoyable, blissful breathing. Breathing which indicates that everything is fine right now. Everything is the way it's supposed to be. Thank you. Please come back. Good. So nice to see faces of people I know very well. Yeah, very nice to see you all. Thank you very much for coming here and joining this webinar. I hope those exercises were helpful, at least to a certain extent. They were good, good. I'm so glad. And now let's talk about anxiety. There is so much information about anxiety everywhere, books, internet, tons of information. But it all comes to the question whether it works for me or not. And if it doesn't work, it really should be disregarded from my perspective. And it works. If it works, it should be cultivated. And today I would like to share my own experience with anxiety, which was the final proof for me that the Buteyko method really helps with anxiety. It happened several years ago when my husband was dying from cancer. Actually, I never shared this story, but I think I'm ready to do it now. And he and I lived in a very isolated mountain village in Rocky Mountains, not far away from Boulder. My husband was my best friend, and we did a lot of things together. We worked together, we hiked together, and did a lot of other things. So we really enjoyed living together in that isolated place. However, when he was diagnosed with cancer and was told that only 2 months left of his life, the situation suddenly changed. Because I became a caretaker and I still needed to work. And I didn't feel comfortable anymore living in that faraway, very tiny village, being very isolated, because I didn't have any help. And so the situation was really difficult for me. And I expected that I would have a high level of anxiety. And it didn't happen because I decided to use this situation as a test and apply the Buteyko breathing method as much as possible, and to see if in those, very difficult circumstances, I would be able to avoid anxiety. And I could honestly say that even though that period of my life was very difficult, I didn't have anxiety, or if I had some, it was just a little bit and very manageable. And that was because I was constantly controlling my breathing. And I completely separated my outer environment and my inner environment. My outer environment was very difficult and very also busy and chaotic sometimes. But I made sure that my inner environment, driven by my breathing patterns, would stay peaceful and stable. And it worked. So for me, it was the best proof that if we know how to control our breathing, we could also control our mind and our emotions. Because the way how we think is greatly, the way how we breathe creates our thoughts, basically, more or less, right? And then our thoughts create our emotions. So by controlling our breath, we could control our way of thinking and also our emotions. Also, I worked with many clients who had anxiety, and all of them were able whether to greatly improve their condition or to stop the anxiety, panic attacks, and depression as well. So with anxiety, the first step is to realize that if you're having anxious thoughts, it means that you are over-breathing. Anxiety is always supported by over-breathing or hyperventilation. The problem is that those two comes together, anxiety and over-breathing, and it creates a chain reaction. Because when we are having anxious thoughts, we are also supporting over-breathing. It goes both ways. The result of it is quite injurious for our overall health because it reduces the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs, which Dr. Buteyko called our vital energy and also the regulator of all bodily functions. So the way how we breathe affects the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs, and the level of carbon dioxide of the lungs greatly affects our nervous system, especially excitability of nerve cells. So basically, if you look at the same person whose level is, or the same person, but imagine that the CO2 level of this in the lungs of this person is low. That's one situation. And the other situation, the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs of this person is whether at the norm or close to the norm, or maybe even higher than the norm, right? So the same events, whether inner events such as our thoughts or outer events, someone said something or something happened, they would generate a completely different reaction in this person, and it will be, which will correspond to the level of CO2 in the lungs. And again, I'll just use myself as an example. So when I began my Buteyko practice, my control pause was 10 seconds, which is quite low. It wasn't severely ill, but I definitely wasn't well at that time. And let's say if at that time someone would ask me to do a webinar for people like you on any topic, I would say absolutely not, because I would be enormously anxious. I would say, are you kidding? English is not my first language. My vocabulary is quite limited. I will look like a clown, you know, trying to express myself. I will feel highly embarrassed. Absolutely not. Just, it's not an option for me. Well, what changed since then? Well, my vocabulary improved a little bit, but not significantly. But my level of CO2 definitely increased and became more stable. So what is my reaction to the same thing now? I feel, yes, you know, I'm okay to do that. I'm sure that I will say things incorrectly. I'm sure I will forget some words, but so what? That's me. And if I'm able to help someone, that's wonderful. And if it doesn't work for someone else, that's okay too. I'm just going to do my best, and that's all I can do in this situation. So the same event doesn't bother me anymore. Why? Because excitability of my nerve cells changed, right? So the higher the level of carbon dioxide is, the lower the excitability of the nerve cells is. So basically we become less reactive. That's what it means, right? So, and it happens almost to everyone, I would say to everyone who is successfully applying the Buteyko method, sometimes I just absolutely love observing my clients and the clients of other specialists who work at the breathing center and see how their faces are changing. You know, they're becoming more relaxed, calmer, and the life in general becomes much easier for everyone. What we call our life, it's basically our reactions to what happens inside and outside, and nothing else. So the reaction change, and the life becomes more enjoyable. The life becomes easier in many, many ways. Some of you probably already know that Dr. Buteyko said that the life with control pause below 40 seconds is pure suffering. Well, control pause of 40 seconds is the lowest level of the norm for carbon dioxide in the lungs. If carbon dioxide is below 40 seconds, it means that person's emotional reactions are very strong because the nervous system is easily excitable, it's very vulnerable, and that type of life is very, very difficult for people. And again, I'm saying it from my own experience, as well as the experience of my clients. So people who feel anxious often are trapped in a vicious circle. And I feel, anyway, so what happens there is that often people take the symptoms of overbreathing, which is anxiety. That's what it is. It's only a symptom of overbreathing and nothing else. So they take this symptom as their personality. They say, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I cannot handle this and that. And partially it's true. But the problem with it is that people become very critical of themselves because it's not how they want to be. They want to be calm and peaceful. So they give themselves very, very, very hard time. They become very critical, and that decreases the CO2 level even further and triggers overbreathing even more. So for everyone who has anxiety, it's so important to understand that your reactions are not you. It's just a symptom of overbreathing, the same as high blood pressure or wheezing. There is no difference. However, there is one difference between these symptoms such as anxiety and many other symptoms of overbreathing. And the difference is that anxiety always is grounded in two elements. One is breathing and another is mind, how we think, our thinking. And in order to greatly improve this condition or overcome it completely, we have to address both breathing and thinking. And it works only in this case. So the first element is breathing. All of us have specific automatic breathing patterns. For people who suffer from anxiety, the breathing pattern is fast, shallow breathing, mostly through the chest. So it's kind of like this, or maybe to show like this, right? If you're breathing like this, most likely you feel anxious, or you will feel anxious very soon if you breathe like that. In fact, you can make yourself feel anxious if you want, but simply practicing this type of breathing pattern. That's why, yes, that's right. That's not what you want to do. I agree with you, Margaret. Yes. Okay. So that's why the first exercise which I demonstrated to you today was gentle belly breathing. The first thing, which is the most important for anxiety, is to switch to diaphragmatic breathing, but a gentle one. So the chest doesn't move and the belly moves just a little bit. This type of breathing pattern, or this breathing pattern, supports relaxation. So if you're breathing like that, you cannot be anxious, and it's very important. And also, many of you probably already know that mouth breathing creates anxiety, or can create anxiety for many people, because mouth breathing sends a message to the brain that the situation is stressful, even dangerous, and it triggers fight or flight response. So of course, establishing nasal, gentle breathing all the time, 24/7, without any exceptions, is very important. And keep in mind that breathing through the nose while talking is essential, because we lose a lot of carbon dioxide normally when we talk, even often when we breathe through the nose. But if a person breathes through the mouth, then the loss of carbon dioxide becomes very significant. Some people who are anxious talk like this. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you what happened yesterday. You know, it was really difficult. You know, and like that, right? So by actively breathing through the mouth, we could create an enormous level of stress for ourselves. It can trigger anxiety and also lose a lot of carbon dioxide. So if you haven't done it yet, please start training yourself breathing through the nose gently and peacefully all the time, including the time when you speak. So diaphragmatic breathing, nasal breathing all the time, and also longer exhales are the remedy for anxiety on the level of breathing. I often recommend people to do humming as a breathing exercise informally, because humming increases the duration of each exhale, reduces our air intake, and also has a very positive effect on anxiety. I remember many years ago, I had a very difficult time in my life. I had very bad relationship at that time with my partner. And often when he and I would talk, we would argue. And sometimes he would say really things which were kind of insulting and really painful for me. And I noticed that when he was doing it, I would start humming. I didn't know anything about Buteyko at that time, but that was my protection. That was my defense mechanism. It drove him crazy, and he would ask me why I was doing that. And I'm like, I don't know, but it helps. Well, now I do know. Humming helps tremendously. Humming decreases the level of stress, increases the level of CO2, and definitely helps with anxiety. So if a situation is difficult and you feel that your anxiety is forming, start humming right away. You could hum your favorite melody, or just kind of do random harms, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you inhale through your nose gently. Your shoulders, your chest don't move, and you just start doing something like that. That wasn't beautiful, but it's okay. All right. And now the second element, which is the mind. I strongly believe that there is no way to overcome anxiety without addressing our thinking, because it all starts with negative, harmful thinking, which is again is driven by breathing patterns, but still we have to look at our thinking, our mind directly. Writing a description for this webinar, I said I will help you to understand why some of us, or maybe all of us to a certain degree, are married to anxiety. Why do we need it? I believe that everything in this world appears for a reason. And I also believe that this world in general has a very positive quality. So it's like, we cut our finger and then we watch our finger healing by itself. It's a total miracle why this whole system, this whole universe is working on healing my finger, why it's supporting me. But it does, and it does it all the time on all kinds of levels, whether we notice it or not. So it took me a while, but I realized that every time I experience anxiety or some just slightly anxious thoughts, the level of anxiety is not that important. So every time I experience it, the universe, the system, God, whatever we call it, doesn't matter how we label that incredible intelligence, which is all over around us, sends me a message that I'm lacking faith. I need to work on my faith. And now I'm so grateful when I received this message, because it's just such a helpful, such a beneficial reminder. So often we forget that everything is here for a reason, that we are not directors of this show, we are only actors, and the show is taking place completely on its own, regardless what we think about it. And one of my clients recently sent me a great picture, which for me acts as a reminder of this thought. And I would like to show it to you. Hope it's okay. I'm going to open it and to share my screen. Just a second. Do you see my screen? Are you able to see my screen? Yeah, I explained.
Yes.
So it's called a pale blue dot. And it's a photograph taken by Voyager 1 in 1990, 4 billion miles away from our planet. So the photographs, the sunbeams, we talked about them this morning, which, like the sunbeam, it touches your face, right? Oh, that's the beginning of that sunbeam. It's sunbeams in cosmos. And you see this little spot here? These were our planet is. That's how small it is. And this is an enlarged version of it. So this is, oh, I'm sorry, you can see my cursor. But anyway, that light beam is the sunbeam. And this little blue dot in the middle is planet Earth. I found it completely amazing. And the person who presented this picture said, we succeeded in taking that picture from deep space. And if you look at it, you see a dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. On it, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives. The aggregate of all our joys and sufferings, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Right? So every time also I became a little bit anxious, I remind myself about my place. I remind myself that, you know, I don't even know how small I am, and that blue dot definitely smaller than, you know, a microbe in the eyes of a scientist looking through a microscope. So for me, this blue dot also represents faith. And sometimes when I work with my clients, I share this thought that, you know, if you are having anxious thoughts, most likely it's an indication that you're lacking faith at that moment. And I was surprised because sometimes people ask me, what do you mean by faith? And I realized that that requires a little bit of explanation. And I think it's faith in fairness, like the whole universe, our world is fair. It actually knows what it's doing. Everything is the way it's supposed to be. So if you can just replace, or at least to try to replace anxious thoughts, negative thoughts with realization that everything is correct actually, even when very bad things happen to us, it's still fair. We might not see it at the moment. And that's why we need to have faith that it's this way, because it's not this realization, it's not instant. I know from my own experience that sometimes, you know, I was very opinionated about certain things in my life and very confident that I was right. And then 20 years later, you know, I would look at the same situation and would say, you know, oh my God, I was so wrong. Why I was so blind at that time, right? So sometimes we are not able to see things, but faith that everything is fair, everything is the way it's supposed to be, really, really helps. It was always interesting for me that Dr. Buteyko, when he was you know, in the middle of his career, he would see a patient and he would ask this person about his symptoms and diagnosis and all of that. But when he became an old doctor, he would see patient, and his first question all the time was, do you believe in God? And if a person would say yes, he would gladly work with him or her. And if a person would say no, then he would question whether he should work with him or not, or her. Well, even statistics shows us that people who have strong faith are less anxious. So we need to start cultivating our faith and replacing anxiety with faith, because this is the main ultimate remedy for feeling insecure, basically. So, and we are very fortunate because there are a lot of traditional techniques which were used for anxiety in many cultures. Without Dr. Buteyko's discoveries, it's really difficult to understand them. But because of Dr. Buteyko's work, we are able to see how those techniques work on all kinds of levels. We could see the mechanics on the level of science. We can explain how they work scientifically. So what are those techniques? The first one is very simple. Every child knows it kind of naturally. It's visualizations. Again, there is nothing wrong about separating your outer world and inner world. So you can imagine yourself as being, anxious and insecure person, or you can imagine yourself being a powerful, confident person whose life is completely fine. It only depends on how you use your mind, how you use your thinking. I grew up in an Orthodox Christian culture, and children whose parents followed this tradition usually were trained to imagine a saint or an angel helping you as soon as you feel again insecure, or you feel fearful, feel all kinds of negative reactions, negative thoughts. So instead of allowing your mind to jump into fear and anxiety, which usually becomes like a domino reaction, it only becomes stronger and stronger, you change it right at the very beginning. You're like, oh wow, here's a beautiful angel behind my back. I'm totally protected. I'm totally fine. Everything is going to be okay no matter what, right? And then late in my life, I became a Dharma practitioner. Now I follow a lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. And in this lineage, everyone is trained to imagine themselves as a powerful deity, right? So that deity could be imagined in various forms, doesn't matter. But it's the same technique, imagining yourself being totally protected, being powerful, and even able to help others. Like you are in a good spot, though you don't need any help. You could have plenty, resources and energy to help others. I think this is very important. Again, children do it very well. And it doesn't really matter what kind of image you create, whatever helps you. Once I remember I worked with a dentist who had problems, kind of anxious thoughts, because he was very busy during his work hours, and he was constantly going from one room to another, seeing one patient and then another and so on. And I suggested that he would imagine himself as a Superman, flying from one room to another, helping one person then, and then right away going to another room and so on. And he allowed himself to become a child and make it fun. And it helped him quite a bit. So you can pick up any image which is helpful for you, which is appealing to you, whether it's someone else, maybe an angel or a Superman protecting you, watching after you, or it's you in a different form. But it's very important to change the way, to change your imaginary identity when it's needed, and train yourself to be able to do it on demand. The other wonderful traditional technique is a prayer. So instead of complaining in our minds, which is usually what we do when we feel anxious, because we feel, insecure and sorry for ourselves, we could turn our thoughts into a request. For example, maybe a person, feel anxious, let's say now during COVID, because something could happen to this person's health, or maybe a person is not sure about his future anymore because he lost his job. So that could start the whole chain of negative thoughts, which will decrease the level of CO2 and negatively impact overall health, right? But if a person knows how to pray or is willing to train himself how to pray, right away he could switch it into a request for good health during these challenging times, for a request to have some means for living or a job during this time, or even imagine that it's already his reality and feel gratitude for this imaginary reality. So it's another ancient technique which works very well during these modern times. And the last one is mantra or prayer recitation, which is again a wonderful way to distract your own mind and create a more peaceful inner environment. Sometimes during our level 1 training, we recommend people to start chanting or reciting a peaceful mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, which is a very ancient Sanskrit mantra. Dr. Buteyko examined it, and he was fascinated to find out that this mantra has an incredibly positive effect on both breathing and thinking. Right. He stated that this mantra alone sometimes is capable of stopping asthma attacks. So it doesn't have to be this mantra if you're following a specific spiritual tradition. I'm sure you could find something similar in your tradition because it exists in every tradition, I believe. But we use this one and it works very well. Again, I have my personal story about it. Once I was in Kathmandu in Nepal with my daughter who was probably 5 years old. And we visited a very long cave. I think it was about maybe 1 kilometer. I don't quite remember, but it was a very long cave. So we went there alone, and there was electric light throughout the whole long cave. It was like a tunnel. And when we were deep inside that cave, suddenly the power went off and it became completely dark. And I mean, completely dark. It was impossible to see anything. And we were alone there and we were lost. Well, I wasn't practicing Buteyko then, but I taught my daughter to use mantras. So my mind immediately went just wild, like, wow, what's going to happen? I'm here alone. My daughter is 5 years old, blah, 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 blah. And I was very proud of my daughter because following my training, instead of becoming fearful and anxious, right away she started, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And I looked at her and I thought, I really need to practice what I preach. And I started reciting the mantra as well. And just in a couple of minutes, the lights came back and everything was fine. So reciting mantras, so maybe if you're following a different tradition, it could be some short prayers, or like in a Hawaiian tradition, I love you, I forgive you, and those kind of phrases reminding us that the world is fair, the world is penetrated by love, the world is positive in its nature. So that work helps a lot. So again, you need to work with both breathing and thinking if you want to overcome anxiety. Addressing just one of these elements doesn't work. And then the final question, what stops anxiety? And the answer to this question is very simple. It's only the normal level of CO2, because that's what ensures that your nervous system functions properly, functions correctly. So by measuring your control pause, you can always evaluate kind of your level of anxiety, if that's your main issue. If your level of CO2 is low, if your control pause is low, your level of anxiety is going to be high. That's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. Nothing is wrong about it. Because in this case, you live in a fight or flight situation, and your nervous system has to support this, this status of your body and mind. So keep it in mind, because sometimes I see people being kind of blind in what they're doing. They're like, maybe doing this and this and this to stop anxiety. And they say, well, that didn't work, or this worked a little bit, or I'm not sure if it's working for me or not. Well, the answer is very simple. If whatever you are doing is increasing your level of CO2, your vital energy, your prana, then it's working for you and you will be able to overcome anxiety. If it doesn't, then it doesn't help. So start measuring your control pause to evaluate your level and your progress in overcoming your anxiety and improving the function of your nervous system. So it all comes to creating a peaceful inner environment instead of a stressful one. And you are really the master of your inner world. There is no one else who can change your inner world. And all of us have a choice whether to be in a beautiful garden surrounded by aromatic flowers and feel peaceful, feel like nothing is wrong in our lives, everything is fine, or to create an extremely stressful, war-like environment. So this is a choice, and we have perfect tools available for creating an enjoyable inner world. And so speaking about the tools, Breathing Center has some tools to offer. Some of you already know we have a video course now on our website, which is called Buteyko Breathing Step by Step. So that might be helpful for some people. If you need my help, I'm available for private sessions. And the best choice is to take our full breathing normalization training, which takes 2 months, and it contains of daily work with a breathing normalization Buteyko breathing specialist. So we do have everything, thank you to Dr. Buteyko, to overcome anxiety, to divorce it successfully, and to get married to peaceful and enjoyable life. That's all I wanted to share with you. I'm sorry it took much longer than I thought. And thank you so much for staying with me. And if you have any questions or any comments, please unmute your microphone and step here. Yeah.
I have a question. Hello?
Sasha, you're muted.
Muted. Okay. Yes, please.
Oh, hi. So if my husband and I were both trying this this morning, the breathing, and he kept yawning. Is that normal?
It often happens, and it's a very good sign. So yawning is the only exception from mouth breathing. If you want to yawn, you can open your mouth and give you full freedom to yawn, like, that's totally fine to do this. Basically, yawning is a sign of relaxation, and it normally takes place to support gas exchange. So many people start yawning first when they do Buteyko breathing exercises, but then it changes. But in general, it's a very good sign. Nothing is wrong about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Please, Ruth.
Thank you. The 10, maybe I missed it. Remember, it said in the advertisement for this webinar that there's 10 minutes you can get rid of anxiety. How do you do it? Can you tell me that answer?
Well, I wouldn't say that you can get rid of anxiety within 10 minutes, but within 10 minutes you can definitely whether greatly reduce or stop anxiety. And I started this webinar by doing breathing exercises. I'm not sure if you missed them or not, but
that was the 10 minutes. That whatever you did in the beginning, that's the way to do it.
Yes, that's the way to do it. There are some other exercises which help, but those exercises allow to increase the level of carbon dioxide within 10 minutes. And that's what decreases the level of anxiety.
I just wanted to know because, like, if I'm in the street and I start to feel shaky and panicky, it's going to be hard for me to start, visualizing and, the flowers and all that. So I wanted, again, the emergency technique.
This is did you see this exercise?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. So this is a perfect emergency technique.
Okay.
As you probably know, doctors often recommend breathing in a paper bag when people are having a panic attack. So this is a great alternative for it.
Thank you.
And I did just for 1 minute, but you can breathe this way for 5 minutes or longer, and it always calms down the nervous system.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
I wanted to say thank you so much for doing this and taking the time and sharing. I work in a really stressful, fast-paced environment, and it was really nice to be around someone who speaks in a measured way and that it's normal and it's around us. And it's just really, I just really appreciate that right now, especially given the state of how fast everything operates and the technology. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that and everything you've shared. And I also wanted to ask, will this recording be available? Because the technique that you demonstrated in the beginning is super helpful, and I personally would like to use it over and over again. And I find your voice very soothing and calming. So wanted to know if this would be available as a recording.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I'm glad that I managed to help someone despite my limited English vocabulary. So it worked. Yes, this recording will be available most likely on YouTube, but we also will send everyone a link to this recording.
Great, thank you very much. And your English is fantastic, and so is your vocabulary.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Kathy.
So I noticed in the meditations, the instruction to look up. I imagine there's some scientific purpose for that, and I'm just wondering what that is.
Certain movements of the body increase the level of carbon dioxide. And one of them is moving your eyes up. So it's almost like a prayer position. So if you imagine a typical picture of a person praying, it's usually like that, right?
Oh.
So this movement increases the level of carbon dioxide, and that's why when you do breathing exercises, it's always helpful to imagine that you're looking up. You can imagine that you're looking up at the sun or the clouds, or some people imagine some spiritual figures or their gurus being high up and looking at them. One movement, and the other one I'm not going to talk about, the law I'll just mention. It's basically a good posture, right? So the good posture reduces our air intake on its own and increases the level of carbon dioxide. And that's why I usually recommend people to make themselves as tall as possible, open up their shoulders. And then if you kind of look, in your mind, look at the area of your diaphragm, like your lower ribs, and imagine this area as a triangle, and make sure that this triangle is looking up, facing up, not down, right? It's a very subtle movement, but it's also very important.
Right,
I'd
thank
like to
you.
thank you for sharing everything also. And I think your English is wonderful. And I'm also in awe that you can speak English and do the Buteyko breathing at the same time.
Thank you,
That
Margaret.
can't be easy.
Thank you, Margaret. So you see how I just managed to turn my anxiety about English into a flow of compliments. And now
Yeah, you did. You're a ray of sunshine.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
I share with everybody. I actually took the Buteyko first level course with Fred, who's one of the teachers. And he quotes Sasha all the time. She's, wonderful, as I would imagine anybody who Sasha is recommending. And it's helped me with anxiety. This course is still helpful because I need to hear things. And it amplifies what the instructor Fred was saying. So it really is complete. But I have to say, and I don't know what Sasha will say, but is one of the, I may consider myself a patient of Fred and Sasha. It just has absolutely such amazing ramifications. I guess anxiety is my thing, depression, but I also have a chronic medical illness. I could actually swallow more now. And I just can't imagine the other changes. it's going to work. But, and again, working with Sasha, with her associates, but I feel like I know Sasha because Fred's always quoting. Yeah, yeah. And thank you so much, Sasha. God bless you. God bless you for the work you do. God bless you for the work you do. I don't, yeah, you have a calling.
Thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that Fred, who is a fantastic specialist,
Yeah.
is helping you. That's great. And I think that Fred might be with us here, maybe not. And
Yes, he is.
Fred, if you feel like saying something, contributing something, you're very welcome. If not, that's fine too. And
can you hear me?
yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hi, guys. Yes. I would, if I was to contribute to the topic, I bring to, the Breathing Center a unique experience because the things that we talk about here, I, really take and apply in the hospital. So I'll share a little bit from that perspective because if you can imagine in the hospital, patients, and a lot of times people don't realize, even the workers are under a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety. It's a place that you would, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a place that you would expect for healing to occur, but I find that is a major obstacle, not only in our lives, but also in that setting. And so applying these basic principles, particularly with patients, I can think of one particular elderly lady who was in ICU, and I went to give her a breathing treatment. And I've been, through the Buteyko training, my first observation is really to evaluate their breathing and look at their breathing. And so this wonderful, sweet woman, I shared with her the things that we talked about here because you could see she was very anxious. You can see, and she communicated her anxiety. And just by sharing some of these deep, relaxed breathing, nasal breathing, within 10 minutes, as we spoke about here, I went to visit her again, and she was just overjoyed and grateful and shared how she was feeling much better and less anxious, even though her environment did not change. And so when we talk about, breathing being powerful, not only, in all areas and in all walks of life, just applying these principles. I'm tremendously grateful to have discovered the Breathing Center and been given this gift, not only for myself, but also in the work that I do. It really, in a sense, and I shared this with Sasha when we were first doing our training, it really invigorated my career again and gave it a much deeper sense of purpose. And so I now go to work excited because I feel I can actually provide a contribution than just maintaining someone's symptoms and really, from my perspective, doing very little for them. So I'd like to share that.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Can I add to what Fred Brown said, Sasha?
Please.
Yeah. I'm at the present moment doing training with Sasha. I'm a yoga teacher, and I've started incorporating the Buteyko method. And just like Fred said, I'm enjoying every moment of it. And I've also found a lot of my students recover from their anxiety, from their panic attacks. And I'm so blessed that I met Sasha at the right time during this COVID-19 because I'm now doing all my sessions on Zoom. And it has tremendously helped all of my students. That, like Fred said, I look forward now to every yoga session where I can impart this knowledge to my students. And they're ever grateful as well. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you so much, Sharada. All right. Do you have anyone else who would like to contribute in any way?
Hi, Sasha.
Hello.
I'm like you. English is not my native language. I'm from Colombia. I speak Spanish, but your English is so good, so nice. Congratulations, and thank you so much for your work. It's amazing, you know. It's not only to change our anxiety states or our stress, it's change our life. And you know, breathing is an amazing way and an amazing power to do it, to recover our life. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what you said is very important. Took me a long time to realize how correct Dr. Buteyko was when he stated that breathing changes our lives on a personal and collective level, both.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I could talk about it for a long time, but I'm not going to do it right now. Thank you, Antonio.
No, thanks to you.
Will we stop it now? Or someone else? No? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
May I say thank you?
Thank you. Oh, you want to say something?
Yes, if I may. I'm not sure how to do this. I unmuted my mic. I just want to say thank you so much because I haven't used my inhaler for over 3 months since I read your book. And I haven't gotten to the 40-second mark yet in the control pause, but I just thank you. I'm so grateful because the inhaler was making my asthma worse. And when I read your book, I got so many other benefits out of it as well. And then when I heard about this anxiety webinar, since I'm a professional singer, I'm going to start auditioning again, and the anxiety level is coming up. So I'll just go back to the Buteyko breathing and just thank you. Thank you. Wish me luck. And I'm going to recommend it to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And sometimes we work with professional singers. And for those people, when they know how to use their breathing, singing becomes their main Buteyko breathing exercise. They don't need anything else, actually. So Donna, it's really important for you to learn how to use your voice as a tool to increase the level of CO2. And in this case, your work will start improving your overall health instead of destroying it or injuring it.
Yes, I noticed my vocal exercises when I used to sing professionally like 20 years ago. The vocal exercises kept me very calm and got rid of my stage fright. And now my vocal exercises I can do much better, and I see the resemblance. I mean, the Buteyko breathing and the vocal exercises go hand in hand. So once again, thank you, and I'll let someone else speak now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think it's time to say goodbye.
Sasha?
Yes.
I want to say just a little thing else is that it's a beautiful approach that you do for anxiety. So good, so beautiful. Thank you so much. It was very nice to your explanation and the way you see and it's very nice job. Okay, thank you so much.
Good, and I hope that one day we will have a webinar about a topic which is very interesting for me, and that's a topic which Antonio brought up today, and it's how breathing affects us on a collective level, how it creates the society, and yeah, how it creates our life as a society. And so I think it would be a very interesting to discuss one day. Thank you very much, everyone. It was incredibly enjoyable being with you, and I love you both, all, all. See my face. Yeah, and hope to see you soon. Bye
Thank
now.
you, Sasha.